Bernie Fehon, the founder of the Vinnies CEO Sleepout here in Australia. In 2006, with a small group of people, I started the Vinnies CEO Sleepout. It's inspired similar events around the world because homelessness is a problem not just here in Australia, but is a worldwide problem. The event here in Australia has raised over $40 million for Vinnies, but that's really just the start. The big question is, what else can we do to help address this problem? This year's CEO Sleepout in Sydney was the 13th that I've attended in Sydney.
This is what we are here to do. You're all thought leaders, you're influential people. We all put our minds to it to try and work out what are the solutions, and Vinnies CEO Sleepout is very much trying to help us do that, and they are doing it every day and we're helping them.
And I was struck by the fact that this really is an ongoing problem, but also struck by the fact that there was a new wave of CEOs. So there's people in those positions who do care and want to do something to make our society a more equitable place. Not just in Sydney, but right across Australia on the night, CEOs who care were engaging with a great organisation to help them help those that are less fortunate than us. The CEO Sleepout started in Australia, very quickly has become a worldwide phenomenon. It is a global movement of CEOs who care. So CEO Sleepouts have sprung up in the US, in Canada, in Taiwan, in Hawaii, and I've also had the pleasure of being involved with the movement in South Africa and the UK. These are very diverse countries, very much an international problem. In the last few hundred years, as technology, as industrial revolutions have happened, we find ourselves with this ongoing global problem, and we need to put our minds together around the world, innovate in this space to try and make the world a fairer place.
As a former Minister for Innovation and Better Regulation, but essentially the person in government right here, right now, that is driving digital transformation right across our state, I can say proudly that one of the most important things that we can do is tackle homelessness. And I am speaking to Graham West, who's leading Vinnies here in New South Wales. And he used to be the Labor Minister when I was in opposition. And he's a top bloke. He's a really nice guy. So when he approached me as head of Vinnies and said, we need to do something together to try and solve this problem, I said, give me some ideas, because I've got the digital, the technical know-how. I can get my crack unit onto this. And I don't want to give too much away now, but I can say this, and Graham will verify this, that we are working together to think outside the square to come up with a modern solution around homelessness. And it does involve data, and it does involve digital platforms, and it does involve things like this, because even homeless people have a mobile phone. And if we can utilise the power of technology and empower homeless people, then we will turn the corner on this. I can give you my word on it, and it's what all the evidence says. But most importantly, the message I want to give to you is I am working with the former Labor Minister on this because it has to be bipartisan, and it will be bipartisan.
Prior to this year's CEO Sleepout, we met with a few CEOs to get some insights into their thoughts leading into the CEO Sleepout, but more importantly to look inside their own organisations and see what they could identify in their own internal community.
I think it really hit home when I found out the scale of the problem here in Australia. It's such a wonderful country, and I guess it drove me to try and play my part to help those less fortunate get their lives back on track. As an employer, we've got 150 employees in Australia. They've got family and friends as well, so that network spreads far and wide. It's one night for us to give up of our time, but the key for us is to understand that it could be our employees that could find themselves in a homeless situation, whether that's through domestic violence or mental illness or just a situation beyond their control. So for us, we want to make sure that we live and breathe our values as a company and continue to support those initiatives and support homeless people in the problem and the cause and find a result that can make their lives better.
I think that it's extremely important that, yes, we are in a very privileged role, but I think it's always important to give back to the community and to be understanding of what is actually happening in the community. And at the end of the day, we are the leaders. So if we want our staff to understand and be compassionate and be empathetic, well, the only way we can really do that is to lead the way. And that's why I think it's extremely important, even if we do it just for this one night.
If I just look at the size of the Marsh organisation in the Pacific, whilst homelessness and poverty may seem like it's a world away, it's highly likely that there could be several colleagues within our organisation that may also be currently impacted by homelessness or may have been impacted by homelessness and poverty in the past.
At all levels of government, there are many people trying to grapple with these issues and come up with the right policy settings to address them. On the other hand, we have the business community, through the CEO Sleepout especially, highlighting the fact that business does care as well. What I think we need to do is have a much better conversation about that collaboration between government and business to try and work out what the real solution is. We're tonight at the 2018 CEO Sleepout at White Bay Terminal in Sydney with John Barilaro, the Deputy Premier of New South Wales. John, we've just heard some amazing stories from clients of Vinnies. We see that it's a complex issue. We look at the census data recently and unfortunately the numbers have risen. What's happening at the moment, obviously the government care about these issues, but what more can be done across portfolios to maybe make a significant change?
Yeah, look, it's a good point. I mean, we just had the budget and we've handed down another $1 billion over 4 years to deal with homelessness. But I think structurally, government, the problem is it's all silo approached. So we're doing it that there's either duplication in some areas or there are gaps. And I don't think we've done a really good job of that. So regardless how much resources you throw at it, if you don't actually fix the structure, you're actually not going to get it right. And I think that's one of the areas that we've got to review. It's one of the areas that we've got to reset, and it is firstly a stock take and audit of what we're doing. From there, identify where the gaps are, and then accept that we're actually not going to be able to fix this on our own. We're going to have to partner with NGOs, community. We're going to have to look at causes, the symptoms, and then at the other side of it is how do we actually get into the education piece. And when I say education, actually educating leaders, thought leaders, leaders of community, business and government on how we better resolve the issue. And look, we know it's an issue that's growing. We'll keep trying. It's not a lack of trying, but geez, we've got to do a better job of it.
In the weeks following the CEO Sleepout, I travelled to Martin Place and met with Azita, who does some real hands-on work with people who are homeless, and tried to identify some of the causes. How long have you been on the streets?
I've been homeless for about 5.5 years. I ended up being kicked out of home at the start of 2015 by my mother. We need help, we need support. Me mainly, I need a lot of support at the moment with what I've been going through.
These people are already tired. They're overwhelmed with their life circumstances. So for them to follow up on, say, Centrelink or housing or getting a job, it's almost impossible. So what I really want for these people is to get the support. So someone fill the forms for Centrelink. They make you go through hoops before they even answer you. I wonder why Centrelink doesn't have anybody sitting there to help these people with getting through to what they need to. So there's so many things that government can do, and I'm just looking for the answer.
I've had some involvement with Vinnies, helping them with fundraising, but there's Vinnies, there's Mission Australia, the Wayside Chapel, there's so many different organisations. But if we go back to what the source of the problem was, you mentioned that you got kicked out of home. What was the support that you needed early on that would have helped?
Pretty much, I needed support from my mother, which I didn't get. I needed support from family. They turned their back on me, didn't help me. I needed mainly family support, and I never got it.
It's something that's happening in every suburb around Sydney and around us, in fact around the world. So it's
Especially in New South Wales, there's a lot. Around here, as you can see, there's heaps. A lot of the food services, most of the staff on the Vinnies truck and the van, a lot of the staff come in, ask how you are, offer help.
People think homeless people are drug addict or alcoholic. Belinda and her partner are not drug addicts, but they've been on the street for a long time.
In 2004, my father passed away, and one thing led to another. After that, I became a carer for my mother. She needed it. Somewhere in September 2015, my mother passed away. That was the very first time I went to apply for a unit, a housing. At the time, I was on New Start allowance before I made that dreaded mistake. I haven't been back there since then. But the lady asked me if I'm housing, what allowance am I on? And I said, New Start allowance. She said, yes, sorry sir, you'll be on a waiting list, so you probably get a unit 15 years time from now. Yeah. And it says, mate, you can't keep riding the train for the rest of your life. I said, I like riding the train. I'm in my own world. I come back to the city the next day. I don't see no harm in it.
But you've been doing this for some time. Do you see some patterns and things that are, everyone's got their own individual story, but are there some common themes that lead people to homelessness that maybe we can, work with governments and people in the right positions to address those things? So what are those patterns?
Yes, I've been listening to their story for some times now, and what I see, which is similar in majority of them, it's family. The support that they needed and they didn't get it from their family. Some of them coming from orphanage, some of them are foster kids, some of them their parents were alcoholic and drug addict, and some of them they don't even know where they're coming from, who's the father and who's the mother. Mental disorders are another thing. Financials, it's one more big issue, that they lose their job, therefore they lose their family, the wife leaves, they can't afford it, life's become overwhelming. Accident is another, that the true accident, they lose their job again, and then bills are piled up and they ended up in the streets. So but the main thing is the family. So if we can prevent homelessness from young age and give the kids the support that they don't get from the family, but maybe through education, even educate the family and empower the family and stop them from coming to the street, because once you hit the street, it's kind of a spiral down. So this needs to be prevented.
So that's almost a generational thing, that we need to support people who have young kids so that they don't have as much financial pressure, all of those things that lead to tension in a family. So do you think that's part of the solution?
Absolutely, absolutely. Education in earliest stage is one of the big things, and empowering people. We all had the time that we felt like almost life is overwhelming, but then we had someone to come and say, you can do it, I'm here with you, I'm right behind you, you can do it, and then we get up and we do it again. But these people don't have that, you be okay mate, get up and do it. And that's why they're going down. So if we can even provide the support to these ones that in the street, there are plenty of them, can be saved, can be removed from the street, can be empowered, start working and get back to the society. But they just need that consistency of support. Like 3 months of housing, 3 months of staying in those public housing is not going to help the situation. They need mentor, they need a coach, they need love and attention. They leave a brother and sister that they never had.
The conversation is about housing, transitional housing, affordable housing, social housing. All of these things work together and need to work together.
Tonight is about access to affordable housing. This is a pressing policy issue that cannot be reduced to partisanship. What we need is a galvanising policy agenda that pulls all of the policy levers to respond to a crisis and, more importantly, to be preventative of a worsening affordable and social housing crisis in New South Wales. This is a local right issue, a Sydney issue, a statewide issue, a national issue. And it requires all levels of government to harmonise and prevent this crisis from exacerbating. Only 1% of rentals in Sydney are affordable for people on the minimum wage. Access to social housing is next to impossible in some areas, and wait periods exceed 10 years. For many families, this ends in homelessness and the grim reality of that. Our homelessness services at Vinnies struggle to meet the level of need. Each day, 2 in 5 of the people seeking shelter are turned away by homelessness services in the state. They are already operating at capacity.
There's a conversation that started. The conversation needs to continue. It definitely needs to include policy settings, policy changes to try and get real results. And these are the things that we'll be talking about in World Made Good.